Christine Brennan, it's so good to have you with us. Thank you.
Gosh, great.
Congratulations on the book, On Her Game, Caitlin Clark and the Revolution in Women's Sports. I ask authors this all the time. What reporting are you most proud of in this book?
I'm certainly proud of how I broke the story of the Olympic snub, that the USA basketball was not going to be putting Caitlin Clark, the biggest name in the history of the sport, whether she deserved to be or not. She is, in terms of the fan interest and the appeal. They were not going to put her on the Olympic team. So I broke that story June 7th of 2024, and I've kept reporting it. And so I have new details, for example, that USA Basketball was going to try to give her a consolation prize, even before they officially announced that she wasn't on the 5-on-5 team. They were going to try to put her on the 3-on-3 team, which is that kind of fun, funky version of basketball that's in the Olympics. And she didn't want any part of that, which I don't blame her, because it's not the same thing at all. I'm proud of that. You know, I've covered the WNBA, the length of its existence in one way or another, including TV hits where I would talk about them in the bubble. Everyone's talking about the NBA and their social advocacy, Black Lives Matter. And I would mention, oh, you know, by the way, let's not forget the WNBA. They're actually doing maybe even more than the NBA. That kind of thing. Columns, some coverage, Lifetime TV, sideline reporting in '99. So I've been around it a long time, and I'm also proud to be able to give the reader a chapter called A League of Their Own, where I go through the history of the WNBA. Because so few people know it. Now people are watching. But in general, while there were great reporters covering it, it got short shrift in our mainstream sports media. So that chapter include columns that I wrote, and some fun history too about, for example, in Seattle when they started their team there, and they needed to sell more season tickets to get going. The coach of the team was dribbling through the streets of Seattle. And as she said to me, she said, there are a lot of hills in Seattle. And she thought she was only dribbling a mile. And then they said, oh, no, you're doing 5 miles. And she was just always looking for a cab. You know, like,
exactly.
There was a reporter, could you leave so I can hop in a cab and be done? Well, that intrepid, young, middle-aged at that time, whatever, coach of the new Seattle team back in the early part of the century is the person who then was the Indiana Fever general manager, who drafted Caitlin Clark last year. So the synergy, the storylines, I'm very proud of that reporting, and also hopefully the storytelling that people are interested in.
And in the history of the WNBA, is it that the league was foundering and then Caitlin Clark came along, or the league was developing an audience and gaining momentum and Caitlin Clark was kind of a slingshot?
Yeah, I think more the latter, Major, to be honest. It had its place, and it certainly had its fans. And for example, here we are in Washington, D.C., and you know the Mystics. I've been to many Mystics games, covered them in the playoffs, and it would be fun when they were at Capital One Arena before they moved to their small little arena over past Nats Park, 4,200 seat arena. Which, by the way, that seemed like the right size in 2019. And of course, with Caitlin Clark, they're moving to the big arenas because they want to have 20,000 fans, not 4,200. But back before that arena, when they were in the big arena, they would have like camp days, and they'd have girls in T-shirts, and you'd have thousands of girls watching these heroes, right? They're role models. And it's so interesting when you're at a game where most of the fans are probably like 12 and under, and they happen to be girls. The pitch and the sound of cheering is so different from your average, male-dominated sports crowd, right? So the WNBA had its following. It didn't need our sympathy. It was moving along. It was getting more coverage. Certainly newspapers, big city newspapers in some of those big cities would put beat writers on the team. But a lot also would put the intern on, and they wouldn't travel with the team. So yeah, I think it was coming along. Superstars, you know the names because you're a big sports fan. Right. But your average person, like they're talking about Caitlin Clark in the produce section right now somewhere, guaranteed that she's coming back. She's going to be back, and she's been injured off and on, which has been so strange and unfortunate for her. But, you had people who love, Maya Moore. I mean, she was just the toast of Minnesota. You had Diana Taurasi for years in Phoenix. You had that fan base, but you didn't have the person that not only transcends that city necessarily or beyond the league, but literally moves into our culture. Because Caitlin Clark, as I say in the book, and as I I will say forever. She is obviously a basketball player. She's also an entertainer. And she's not just one of the most famous athletes in our country. She's one of the most famous people in our country right now. And that is a great boon to the WNBA if they can figure out how to tamp down the negativity and focus on the incredible eyeballs she brings.
And we'll get to the negativity in a moment, but just describe Caitlin's game and how she came to be as good as she is.
So first of all, I think Title IX, it's important to mention, the law that just turned 53 years old, signed by Richard Nixon in June of '72, opening the floodgates for girls and women to play sports. In Iowa, there was already a very strong support system for girls playing sports. They had 6-on-6 girl basketball going back to the 1920s. What that meant is they couldn't cross the center line. So you had girls who played forward and would shoot, and girls who played guard and would be defenders, so no one ever learned the other position. So clearly they weren't getting recruited in college, and so they had to get rid of that. But it was, everyone would, like a Hoosier, stream into Des Moines to watch the girls play from the farm towns. A very cool story. So out of Iowa, this field of dreams for girls, I've obviously had some fun with that. If you build it, she will come. So you have a wonderful atmosphere in Iowa. Other places, of course, in the country too, but Iowa's got this real thing with basketball and girls and support.
Like Indiana has with men and boys.
Exactly, and the love of the game, for sure. And like your mother played and your grandmother played, and so now it's the 5-on-5 game, but girls play basketball in Iowa. Grow up and play high school ball, and then hopefully as women go on and play college if they want to. Also, Caitlin Clark is born into a sports-loving family. Her dad is a Hall of Famer at a D3 school. He was baseball and basketball. You've got her mom, whose dad was the legendary high school football coach at the high school where Caitlin and her brothers went. Sports is in her DNA. And so she's got an older brother, younger brother. But no matter what, Caitlin Clark was going to play sports. But you have a mindset, not just a law. Title IX is that, but it's also the mindset that we want our daughters now to play sports, our nieces, our granddaughters, in a way that we weren't doing 50 years ago. And so that helps. Then you're getting great coaching. People care. Caitlin played against boys up till 6th grade. And her AAU coach, I quote him in the book. He's a quote machine. He's the kind of guy we love. Just like turn on the tape recorder and just let him talk. Dixon Jensen. He says she was playing against the boys, and he says they're a little bigger when she gets 5th, 6th grade, right? Little bigger, little tougher, little stronger, and a little meaner. And I love that quote. Mm-hmm. And so Caitlin was tough. She was toughened up.
Kind of like Venus and Serena.
Without a doubt. Where
tennis.
Where the dad, Richard Williams, is just drilling them. And it gives us the two greatest from the same family out of Compton, California. I mean, that story still is unbelievable. And the success and the role models and just the legacy forever of Serena and Venus. So yes, without a doubt. So Caitlin then, obviously, this ability, she's shooting shots left and right. She's on the driveway, she's doing whatever, loves to play, loves to shoot, loves to practice, and is encouraged to do that nonstop. There's nothing negative about it. Going back a generation, I was an athlete playing all these sports as a tall girl growing up in the suburbs of Toledo. My mom and dad said, honey, sure, play, yes. But most girls my age, not women my age, obviously, were told no, go play with Barbies, go play with your friends, go, play dress up in your mom's closet, but you can't play with the boys. The boys wanted me to play. So I was lucky. I kind of had my own personal Title IX, my dad. But by the time now you're getting girls, young women and girls born in the first part of this century, which is what we're talking about. Caitlin Clark was born in '02. You are getting Title IX on full blast. It is the coolest thing in the world to be an athlete. And Caitlin, again, would have been that athlete anyway. But that's the mindset. So you want her to succeed, the best coaching, international teams. She's playing soccer. She played everything.
And she's a gym rat.
She just wants to shoot.
Right.
Shoot. Loves it. You see
that is a term of affection.
It is. And you see it in the Gatorade commercials, just the shooting. That's what she does. And she works out and absolutely, loves the sport. And of course is excellent at it. And what she's doing, I know people have asked, okay, why her? There are great basketball players, women's players who've come before her. Why didn't they resonate the way she is? And I do think it's the logo 3. It's chucking it from the parking lot from the next county, and it's going in, right? I mean, because you just go, what have you seen? And, I've covered a lot, right? I've covered the Olympics, NFL. I mean, I'm very fortunate. Super Bowls, Tiger Woods, the length of his career. And I was watching at home some of these games, and I want to watch the replay.
Right.
And I'm going to go to social media. I want to watch that again.
Right.
It was something we hadn't seen, certainly from a female athlete, and the passing, which, because you're a sports fan, she played soccer. And she loved the angles of soccer, learning. She's a great soccer player, all state, but she just had to give it up because there were now basketball trips, international trips. So the passing that you see on the court, whether Iowa or the WNBA, that passing, she talks about the angles that she learned from playing soccer, where you can then try to hit that player, your teammate, on the run in basketball. And the moment you now know that, next time you watch her, you'll go, aha, that's exactly what she's doing.
She's also a marketing phenomenon. And I believe, if she doesn't say these words, ascribes to what Michael Jordan used to say. Republicans buy sneakers too. Mm-hmm. Meaning, I'm not going to get into this cultural this or that or try to land on one side or the other. You love the sport, you love me, I'm going to market myself and ride that wave in whatever direction it takes.
A very smart move by Caitlin Clark. Whether she's planned it out or just this is the way she wants to be. Her answers are great. She goes in depth. She is lovely to interview. You asked her the toughest thing, and she doesn't scowl or throw things at you the way some of those NFL players. Well, they didn't. Maybe one towel got thrown at me when I was covering the Joe Gibbs teams here in D.C. But perfect example, and it's in the book. So you have the one and only debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. The next day, the Fever had a game. And I'm now full-fledged on the book and reporting that book. And of course, everyone knows I'm writing a book, and Caitlin knows and is answering whatever questions I'm asking, usually in small little press gatherings. Met her once, one-on-one, access to practices that no one else had. But I'm there, and I'm going to ask her, because what happened was right after the debate, Taylor Swift, you may recall, put out a post on Instagram, 2 parts. Vote, it's so important to register, do all that. And she was endorsing Kamala Harris. Okay. Within a couple minutes, Caitlin Clark liked that post. And I didn't see that, but I saw the X, the Twitter stories, and it was Oprah Winfrey and Kylie Kelsey and Jennifer Aniston and Caitlin Clark are liking the Taylor Swift post. So this is becoming news as a celeb. So next day, journalism 101. You do it 100 times out of 100. I do it 100 times out of 100. I said, there's a post, I'm smiling, of course. There's a post out there that got a little bit of attention last night. What did that post from Taylor Swift mean to you? And are you potentially going to be endorsing Kamala Harris for president? It had to be asked.
Of course.
But I'm looking at a 22-year-old who's playing basketball. But to your point, she is elevated in a way, and she is making millions of dollars, whether it's the Nike deal, Gatorade, State Farm, et cetera.
Influencer with a capital I.
Absolutely. People care, and they want to know, and she has liked that post. And her answer is exactly what you were talking about. She went in deep for like a minute or so about how important it is to vote, register to vote. She had voted the first time 4 years ago. It is all about voting. That was the end of the answer. Didn't even, and it's, by the way, totally acceptable and fine. I mean, I was like, okay, great. But never even went to the second part of it. And I think that was, I'm sure there were people who were not happy with her. Like, why wouldn't you talk about Kamala Harris? Who are you voting for? She wasn't going to go there. And I do think for her fan base, as a 22-year-old, it was the right move to make. And you're right, that the role model for her on that is Michael Jordan. And Tiger Woods, too. Tiger always just stayed there. And I know there are people, again, who get angry about that, or columnists who want to be critical. My goodness, she's 22, and she is living an exemplary life, and what a role model she is. So she can answer that question any way she wants, and she did.
Are there questions about Caitlin Clark's durability? The WNBA is a tough physical league. When I watch the games, which I do with some frequency, I'm astonished how physical the game is. The NBA is physical. The WNBA is not as physical. It can't be, but it is plenty physical.
Yeah. Well, the old, watching her last year, and I've watched some games on TV, and then when I had the book contract, which was quite sudden, less than a year ago even. It's still amazing that the book is out. I'm now, of course, on the road with them and following them as soon as the Paris Olympics were over. And, you kind of felt like she was being folded, stapled, and mutilated, right? I mean, she's just getting pummeled. She is my height. I'm 5'11 and a half. She's 6 feet. So we're, maybe just a tad taller than me. And she is not a toothpick by any means, but she is certainly not bulked up to the point you're talking about. Obviously there are big, big players in the WNBA, as there should be, as of course they're terrific. And so, and she's driving in the lane and there she's going to the, and obviously a lot of this happens naturally. It's called basketball. There are fouls. And then some of it went beyond and certainly Angel Reese had a flagrant foul on her, whatever. So this year in the off season, because she had no break, 8 days between the college and the getting drafted. This year she had about 6 months. So she was working out, bulking up, obviously talking about her arms are bigger. There were some pictures where you could see her arm definition in a way that it had not existed before. And this is just so weird. And I don't know the answer, and I'm not, she'll speak about it when she wants to. This is not in the book because the book went through April. But she's been injured twice. And fascinating, the last time she missed a game was sophomore year of high school with a sprained ankle, 1 game in high school. So from that moment on, all the rest of high school, all of her AAU games, all of her college games, and 1 season of the WNBA, never missed a game. And the point that her AAU coach makes, which I think is absolutely valid, is one of the reasons Caitlin Clark is because she was always playing. Right. When you think of Paige Beckers, great player, who at the time was, when they're the same age, was actually seen as the top recruit in the country, and Caitlin was number 4. They're grew up about 4-hour drive apart, Minnesota and Iowa. But Paige Beckers had injuries and missed a good chunk of almost 2 seasons. And so it just alters your career. And now she's injured twice now with the quadriceps and then the groin injury. It is unusual to me. I have no insight, and obviously I wouldn't say it because it's her body and it's her right to talk about it, or a doctor to talk about it. But it is unusual. She had all that time to get ready and prepare. Everything that people were worried about last year, that no time to prepare, no rest, right, just thrown into it. And of course, she had one of the great seasons you'll ever have last year while she was going through all of that.
And what effect is there on ratings and attendance if she's not in the lineup?
It's incredibly dramatic. And it's an issue for the WNBA. It's an issue for the players if they even don't like her. She's your greatest asset. So she missed the first time she was injured this year. She missed 5 games. And in those 5 games, the TV viewership, for not just the Fever, but the entire league, dropped more than 50%. I know. So Caitlin Clark disappears, more than 50% of your TV audience disappears. That is remarkable, Major. Tiger Woods, there'd be a little bit of a drop. I mean, it'd be like, oh, that'll be fall off, but it's not going to fall off the cliff. Michael Jordan, I went back and looked. Again, it depends on the season and the games, but percentage points, nothing like that. And that's, I think that might give people pause who are kind of like, well, okay, Caitlin Clark, but what about everybody else? Well, I mean, you look at the attendance, the Indiana Fever last year, their home average attendance with Caitlin Clark in her rookie year actually beat the average home attendance was higher than the average home attendance of 5 NBA teams, including the Indiana Pacers and Washington Wizards and a few at Memphis and Charlotte, Atlanta. I mean, I can't even believe I just said that sentence, right? I mean, that a WNBA team would have higher home attendance, average home attendance than 5 NBA teams. That's Caitlin Clark. I know people want to say, well, other people are selling out arenas. I mean, New York Liberty, great crowds. And obviously the Golden State Valkyries, they're off the charts. That is a spectacular story and shows that you don't need Caitlin Clark to sell out. But for the rest of the league, they absolutely do need Caitlin Clark to sell out. And when she was missing games, as I'm sure you know, they moved to the big arena in Chicago, and the prices are dropping from hundreds of dollars on the secondary market to $9 to $3. Well, Angel Reese is there, and she's great. And obviously, she's a force and a great rival and all the things that we know about Angel Reese. Well, that's her home team, and I'm not being critical. I'm just being honest. Facts are facts. She couldn't keep those fans there, with the $100-some ticket. They did have a nice crowd, but Angel Reese was not the draw in Chicago. it was Caitlin Clark.
Let's talk about one other thing before we wrap up here, about the inherent friction of Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. And you mentioned sometimes the hard fouls. It seems to me, and this might be a misimpression, Christine, but every hard foul on Caitlin Clark becomes an adjudicated topic on social media for the next 24 to 48 hours. With an almost like Zapruder-like film obsession over who did what at what particular point on the court. Was it a flagrant 1 or a 2 or whatever? And that seems to me to be part and parcel of this larger tug of war over what Caitlin Clark represents, racially, culturally, or otherwise within the WNBA. You have far more insight into this than I'll ever have. Walk me and my audience through what that's meant for the league, with the pressures on Caitlin, and how other African-American players within the league talk about and think about this.
Yeah. You know, I think fans are interesting. We've all sat. Newsflash. Write that down. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting / possibly annoying.
Yes, we've all sat in at games and watched, and and people yelling, and they're passionate, they care, they're crying. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, people love it. Caitlin Clark's fans love her. They are so devoted to her. We've seen that with many men's sports. I mean, Tiger Woods, they were running to get to the first tee. I mean, this is not bad. This is a good thing.
Right.
So now you've given everyone a forum that you didn't have during beginning of Tiger's career.
Or Joe Namath, or even early Tom Brady, or Joe Montana, or Nolan Ryan, or Tom Seaver. Huge stars who had enormous fan bases in lots of different sports. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with the Lakers.
How about Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus?
Arnold Palmer, right.
Which is a great rivalry. I mean,
Right.
you had Arnie people, Jack people. My dad always was telling me about that. Yeah, and there was no forum. I mean, they could write letters.
Right.
They could talk to their neighbor across
But this
the fence.
amplification, acceleration dynamic.
Right. So, and this is, of course, the nature of social media and the cesspool that is X, Twitter, and I'm on it because it's the place to be for sports and breaking news and everything else, and obviously, many other things other than sports. So you're certainly giving people a forum to express their love for a player. Are there people who are white who love Caitlin Clark because she's white? I am sure there are. Everyone I talked to, and I tried to talk to a lot of fans, I did the old, shoe leather reporting, standing there, chatting with people on the sidewalk, talking to people in the 22 jerseys. What brings you here? I was very pleased to talk to black fans with their 22 jerseys on. And I have some quoted in the book about just, hey, I don't care, race. She entertains me. We drove in from Alabama, 6 hours, and we're here for this game, and we love Caitlin Clark. But sure, of course, are there people there who we would tell them in our kitchen, we don't like your politics or whatever? Yes, probably, or however people would agree on these things. I think the WNBA needs to say, get people off Twitter if they need to be. And by the way, the Indiana Fever did. All of them, because there were Caitlin haters. She's getting pummeled. Her parents, her family's seeing it all. Obviously, the black players everyone's getting it. White players, they all just went off Twitter and went off social media. Why the WNBA didn't suggest that for everybody? See it coming, understand the national scrutiny, understand the craziness of fans. I am not, by the way, exonerating racists here. I am not saying, fine. No, I'm not. What I'm saying is you cannot necessarily police everything. No. And the NBA and the WNBA, my goodness, the soccer leagues, right, with the racist chants and things, they do their best. But no one has figured out yet how to stop terribleness and awful things happening on social media. What you can do, and what seemed to me the WNBA failed miserably, was to tell their players, prepare them, hey, this is coming. Again, not because they're damsels in distress, Major. No. College graduates, great women, leaders, terrific. But they've never been through anything like this before. They were toiling in relative obscurity, might have had 2 people like a tweet, 5 people like an Instagram post, or maybe 500, whatever. Now it's hundreds of thousands of people. But this is the reality of our world. And I think, again, there certainly is a lot of that. But the WNBA, I do believe, needs to figure out how this is a good thing, and also, and again, because I know people might be out there saying, well, what about the racist chants or whatever? There was all this talk about the first game of the year, May 17th. I was at that game. Chicago, Indiana, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, and there were allegations of racist language that was used. WNBA investigated and found no evidence of it. There are issues out there. The WNBA and the teams are looking into it. I think everyone needs to be careful on this issue. And anyone who is exhibiting racist behavior should be kicked out, and hopefully Twitter or whatever can get rid of these people. But I also have found a lot of really good, interesting, fabulous, upstanding citizens, male, female, black, white, who just love this kid. And what is wrong with that? And my answer would be, there's nothing wrong with that, and every other league in our history, especially men's, have ridden superstars like an Arnie Palmer, like a Jack Nicklaus, like a Tiger Woods. Ride that as opposed to fighting it. And again, I'm not minimizing racism. I'm just saying that what I found were fans who were terrific, who were bringing daughters and sons, little kids, who would never have tolerated racism in the arena or what have you. But it is a complicated issue, and I'm sure we'll be discussing it for many years to come.
And Caitlin Clark is a transformative athlete, not just in the WNBA, but sports writ large. The book, On Her Game, Caitlin Clark and the Revolution in Women's Sports. Christine Brennan, thanks for the long, extended, and very, very enjoyable conversation.
I loved it. Thank you so much, Major.